my name is Eleanor. I am the founder of Ask Mother. We're a platform that seeks to celebrate and connect mums who are working in the creative industries, across the creative industries. And I can see two Jennifer Middletons there. That's really trippy. Amazing. What a wizard. And so this is our first ever talk, and we're super, super excited. And what I'm going to do is spotlight myself so you can see me bigger. I'm sure that's what everybody wants to see. We are presenting this talk in partnership with Raising Films, who I'm sure many of you know. They've been working for 11 years, correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica, a good long time, supporting parents in the screen industries. And we're super, super happy that they were so keen to partner with us on this. And so before we introduce Naomi, I'm just going to invite Jessica to come and have a little chat and introduce Raising Films for anybody who doesn't know them.
So, hello everyone. My name is Jessica Levick, and I'm one of the co-founders of Raising Films. For those of you who don't know us, we support and campaign for parents and carers in the UK screen industries. We do this by conducting research, celebrating good work, and offering training and residencies, which we've been working on for a long time. We conducted the first ever survey into the impact of caring on the careers of filmmaker parents back in 2015. We also have branches in Australia and Ireland, and we were awarded a BIFA Special Jury Award in 2021 for our work. We know how crucial community is to parents and carers, and in the past we've held get-togethers around issues like preparing to shoot over the summer holidays and gatherings at film festivals to help parents still access professional spaces when they might be feeling left out. But today we're so pleased to be here to support Eleanor Coleman of Ask Mother, although it sounds much better how you say Ask Mother, in her new series of online chats with inspiring parents and carers who are generously sharing their experiences of how they make it possible to have a career in the screen industries. If you're here because you are parents and carers looking for inspiration, we'd love to invite you to take a look at our website, raisingfilms.com, where there are a lot of interviews with brilliant people who found ways to make it work, case studies of productions where they accommodated caring responsibilities, resources telling you what your rights are as an employee and your responsibilities as an employer, and lots of data you can look at to understand how we as an industry are doing. Finally, if you know any brilliant people, organisations or companies who are doing great work in making their workplaces accessible for parents and carers, we'd encourage you to submit them for a Raising Films ribbon, which is a kite mark that tells everyone what people and companies are doing out there to change our culture for the better. And now, over to Eleanor and her special guest for tonight, filmmaker Naomi Waring. Naomi participated in a Raising Films event back in 2016 at the Edinburgh Film Festival. So it's going to be brilliant to hear about her career since then and how she made her short film Milk while juggling the demands of being a parent. So thank you, Eleanor, so much for setting this all up. And over to you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And yeah, a huge thank you to Raising Films because you've been super, super supportive with this. And for anybody who isn't aware of their work, I really recommend that you go on their website because there's lots of resources. And I'm sorry if you can hear, there's a party boat going past me right now. You can hear that? Is Zoom really good at blocking out sound? Because this is going to go on all night. But yes, thank you so much.
It is quite good.
And yeah, so we've shared the website in the chat there, and we'll be showing some more links at the end. So without further ado, I am about to welcome the wonderful Naomi Waring, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for a number of years, and I've been an absolute fangirl of her for the length of time that I've known her. Naomi is a screenwriter and director whose work explores class, identity, belonging, and contemporary social issues through intimate, character-driven storytelling. Most recently, she directed Privileged for BBC Three and BBC iPlayer, produced by Out of Orbit and Northern Ireland Screen as part of BBC Writersroom Long Story Short initiative. The film is currently nominated for a Broadcast Award. Her short film Milk, which hopefully many of you have seen by now, and if not, we'll come to that, was executive produced by Sienna Miller and supported by the Uncertain Kingdom's Belief Fund. It was nominated for a London Critics Circle Film Award 2026 vocal warm-ups, and was the winner of the 225 Film Club Audience Award. She's currently developing her debut feature film, Drifters, which was selected for the prestigious Less is More development programme in 2025, and hopefully hopefully she will tell us some more about that later as well. So please welcome Naomi Waring.
Woo! Wow,
Hi.
thanks. It's a bit of a mouthful, that
I
bio,
know,
isn't
and I
it?
didn't I didn't do my warm-ups. I should have done them and I didn't do them. So never mind. I hope I did you justice because you've
You
got a
did.
lot of things to say. There's a lot to be said about you.
Thank you.
Um, what I didn't say about you there is that you're also an absolute powerhouse of a single mother. So which we're going to get into, but I feel like that should be in your bio as well because it's as a fellow single mother, a whole lot of work, a whole nother job. I'm sure there's lots of other people on the call who would agree with that too. Um,
I have to say though, I have been very lucky in the fact that I am a single mum, but I actually would say that I'm a co-parent,
mm,
and I think that it comes with its own challenges, but there definitely is a bit more of a privilege and space that I've been able to occupy, which I know is not the same for you and for many other single mums. So. Yeah, I am very lucky in that I do have a very, my son's father is very present and in his life. So I don't know how much I would have been able to do if that weren't the case.
a good not disclaimer, but good like
Yeah,
recognition that I think.
I think it's
Um,
very different when you're doing it
yeah.
solely on your own.
Well, I still think you're excellent. I was going to say badass, and then I was like, I'm going to try and not swear on this call just in case anybody's got children tuning in. That'll be the end of the swears. Naomi,
Yes,
so
fire now.
I would love to just take us back to the beginning of your career, your story, and find out what was it that first drew you to filmmaking? When did you realize that it was something that you wanted to build your life around?
Thanks. Well, actually, I started out as an actor many years ago. I went to theatre school from a very young age, and I was lucky enough to get sort of scholarships to go to Sylvia Young and then Webber Douglas. And I was incredibly passionate about the work that I did there and that training. But when I left drama school, I very quickly became a mum, and I was very naive in thinking that, I'd just be able to continue working and, bring the baby along with me. But actually, so much of my identity shifted when I became a mum, and priorities changed. And actually, I just wasn't able to do the work a lot of the time. I remember at one point kind of juggling a part-time job at the Groucho Club whilst breastfeeding still and doing a rehearsal for a fringe play. And it was from that struggle and from that kind of um, change in circumstance and also perspective that kind of led me to really wanting to make my own work. I think being an actor can sometimes feel like a very passive thing to do, and I really wanted a way to kind of take control in my own time, in my own way. And so I wrote a film that I was in and I produced, but I didn't direct. And it was really bad, obviously. It was terrible. But it was from then that made me understand that I wanted to make films and I wanted to make really brilliant films and I wanted to get good at that. And that was at the point where I actually did separate from my partner, and I moved to Wales in the middle of winter with a friend, kind of going through early motherhood and a lot of self-doubt. And we made a shadow puppet show together, and it was this kind of small act of creativity to kind of give ourselves some kind of sense of that we could that we could carve out a bit of time for ourselves together. And it really raised my confidence. And at the time of doing that, I made it as a documentary along with another filmmaker called Joanna Coates. And it, that's when things really sort of started to grow, and my confidence in myself and storytelling grew. So really, it came from motherhood. The desire to make films came from a place of wanting to have more autonomy and wanting to be able to do things in my own terms, in my own way. And, for the past 12, well, a bit longer than that now, it's 20, I was 28 when I made my first film. I'm 42 now. For that time, I've been really trying to develop my own voice and my own perspective and point of view. And I've been doing it fairly slowly, but quite rigorously for that amount of time because I haven't been able to really sort of have a career in the film industry as such. But I feel quite lucky in a way that I have had that time to really develop as a artist and as a creative. So really having that kind of um, barrier has given me opportunity to kind of grow in a way that I don't think that I would have done had I not become a mother so young. Does that answer?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that's a really nice kind of way of looking at it. I think that kind of like motherhood sort of put you in a bit of a cocoon in a way, like where you've still been creating work and you've been developing yourself. And I mean, I've said this about you. I really feel like you're in the last few years, things really seem to be ramping up for you. And I was going to come to this later, but I think it's no coincidence the fact that your son is now at such an age where he's kind of flying the nest this year
Yeah,
now.
he's going to be 18 on Sunday, which is a whole other world of pain. Um, but no, I don't think it's a coincidence. But also it's I guess Sunny and I have grown up together in a way, and so it's not, I don't think it's just the fact that I have more time and space to myself, but it's more that had that time I've had the time to develop, if that makes sense. It sort of makes sense that it's now because I've put so much work in. And we talk about those 10,000 hours or 100,000 hours or whatever it is. I've certainly done more than that. I've made over 15 films, whether that's for other people or, charities or communities. And, I've really sort of been doing that all underground. And then in the last couple of years, began to feel quite frustrated at not really being able to make longer form work and now is the time that I can do that. So yeah, Sunny is off to New Zealand and I'm definitely going to need to get a hobby or some way to fill that time and yes, so I think those two things have gone hand in hand, having the time and feeling a little bit less guilty really. um, I think we've sort of talked about it before of like this idea that the work that we do, it's sort of a selfish act in a way, or it can feel quite selfish to need to create. Like it's not just like like I want to be a filmmaker. Like I need to do that. Like, and if I don't do that and I don't give myself the space and time to do that, I'm not a very good person to be around. But as we know, like that's not necessarily always seen, always recognized, always paid for that time. And it can really amount to nothing, on an external point of view. And so taking that time in the past when Sunny has been younger was a huge guilt factor. Just knowing that it might amount to nothing. And yeah, I guess I have less of that now because he just doesn't want to hang out with me. So
As a bonus then. But I mean, I was thinking about that, like the guilt that we have, and it's such a good point that the fact that so much of what we do is kind of you don't know that it's going to be anything. You're kind of it's speculative. Sometimes you have to put a certain amount of time and effort into some kind of project, and is it going to pay off, or is it going to give you what you want in terms of recognition or whatever? And and that can be really hard to explain to other people as well who don't have this compulsion, I think, to make stuff.
Mm, yeah.
But I think that the idea of like the guilt that sometimes, I mean, I personally, I'm like every now and then I have to remind myself that I've put it on myself. It's
Mm.
kind of how much of it is really real and how much of it is something that you've generated yourself.
It is. I think it's both, but I don't believe that it is just that, like I've got a colleague at work who's really brilliant and is a single parent, but her mum looks after her children in another country for a huge amount of the time while she works. And the amount of not like anger from people that she's kind of come up against because she's chosen to do that when the father isn't present at all. And if the father is present for a little bit, gets so much kind of there's a like brilliant. He was around. He, made a bit of effort. So I don't think that it is just us. It's not just a thing that we hold. I think it's very much a sort of societal thing around expectations, and it's really exciting to see the younger generation kind of breaking the mold, breaking the mold on that a little bit, and redefining, what it means to be a creative and to be a woman and to be a mother. And you know, I I sometimes I find it silly to even talk about now because I think people assume that it's changed, or that can't be the truth, or like, oh, but it isn't, and it very much is still a thing, and I'm sure we'll come on to it, but it's very much a topic that I am looking at in terms of my future work. So my feature film is very much around this topic, and I've shared it with a few people, and some of the feedback has been that they really don't empathize as much with the female character as they do the male character because the female takes this time to kind of leave her family to pursue her own creative pursuits or whatever. I just find that really interesting, like. I just, it's just, I think it's really wild. So yeah, I don't think it's just in our heads. I think
Mm.
we're sort of made to feel that way a lot of the time.
Good. In that case, I will stop saying I'm making it up. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I don't think.
Um, I was just gonna whiz back a little bit because we were talking
Yeah, very
about your early days. And by the way, I'd really love to see that first film that you ever made, if you still
much.
have it.
No.
Um, you didn't actually go to film school until how old was Sunny when you went to film school?
Yeah, so Sonny was 6, so he just started year 1, I think it was, and I started my MA, and we started school on the same day. So I was 31, and yeah, that was a really a wonderful time and an incredibly stressful time. It was probably the most stressful time, yeah, in my life, because I had again, this feeling of guilt, like where I would have to put him into the, after school clubs, until 6 p.m. He was so tiny at that point, and I would run from my MA, like from London Film School, which is in Covent Garden, back to his school in South London. And I remember it was the first day. And I had a teacher called Alan Bernstein who was brilliant, and he was doing this lecture, and it was supposed to finish at 5, but it didn't finish at 5. And I didn't want to leave because I didn't want people to think that I wasn't serious. And, I didn't want people to think that, da da da. And so I was late to pick up Sonny, and he was there on his own in the school. And it absolutely was awful. And then but from that moment, I just thought, oh, I'm just not going to do this. I'm just going to leave when I need to leave. I'm going to make the things that I need to do because I'm not going to, it won't work otherwise. And so I had a very different experience doing my MA than to a lot of other people, obviously on the course who were a lot younger and didn't have responsibilities. And at the same time, I was also having to work and juggle work and a real fear of actually losing my home at the time just because of not being able to afford it really. So yeah, so it was a really complex time, but it was also the first time since becoming a mother that I had space to myself, where I could think about other things and dream up film ideas and envision a future where I actually might be making my own films one day. And being with a community of filmmakers who were incredibly driven and continue to this day to kind of support me and challenge me. So I'm so glad I did it, but it was really, really tough.
It sounds like you learned a really good lesson very early on, though, with the knowing that you need to just say that you have to leave
No.
sometimes, which
Yeah,
I think is really hard to do, especially when it's like you're in an industry as well that's so competitive, and there's always this fear of if you show any sign of not being the most committed
I
person in the
did.
room,
Yeah.
you're finished.
Yeah, you're gone. You're a goner
You'll never work again.
in this
But it,
town.
but it's good, and I think it's like, I think this is something that I'm hearing more of people who are just starting to, if you're normalizing that, I suppose that, you have to draw that boundary as a parent.
Yeah.
And
And
does Sonny is Sonny still mad at you for the day that you?
he's never mad. This is the thing with this kid.
Oh,
He's never been
our
mad.
children are so different. Oh my God.
No, Sonny, yeah, he's not mad at me about anything. And not that he knows. I'm sure in maybe 10 years' time, the therapy session. But no, he isn't mad. And actually I had made a lot of choices that have meant that when I'm with Sonny, I'm with Sonny. And that has meant that I've, not had work on set, and I've not gone to networking events, and I've not been able to go to film labs, and I've not been able to apply for like a lot of things, including shadowing opportunities. And I've also had to have a full-time job because I can't not have the security, because it's not just about me, it's making sure that I'm securing, his future. And a lot of filmmakers just don't have any of those responsibilities. Most of the people that I know who are, you know, making films are supported in some form, whether that's like a partner or family, or this kind of a thing. So yeah, so it does mean that I'm on a very different timeline, and I'm on I've always sort of said it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And um to kind of trust my own, you know trust the process, as Sunny would say.
Well, and it's so good to hear. Like, I think you're incredible that all the things that you've managed to all this time to hold all of those things up. Yeah, it's incredible. It's super inspirational. And you also teach, don't you? You teach at Lambda. That's your
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, I teach at Lambda, I teach screen acting, and actually it's been such a blessing. I've met some incredible women makers through that work. And I've also been given a lot of space to, earlier this year they supported me so that I could go and write my feature film for 2 weeks. I was paid, in that time. And yeah, just having that stability, because as a freelancer, it was just a little bit too much for too long. So I really enjoyed, and actually since I've been there, I think that's also part of the reason I've made as much work as I have. Is because I know when I'm getting paid, and like I'm not wasting all that other energy on like trying to find work. And so the spare energy that I do have has meant that it's gone towards my filmmaking. So so yeah. And I get to work with actors on a daily, and I'm constantly practicing. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of friends of mine who have maybe done a first feature haven't been on set for maybe 4 years, or haven't worked with actors for over 4 years. I'm working with them every day. So I'm constantly kind of, evolving my practice and thinking about, it all kind of feeds into each other. So yeah, I really am lucky.
And for everybody watching, I know Naomi because she came to teach when I was at drama school, and I can confirm that she's an absolute dream to be directed by. She will tell you the truth, though. She's not going to be nice.
No, I'm not very nice.
No,
It's
but
all
you're
an act.
good. Um, so just coming to the film industry or screen industries a bit more broadly, they're famously hard to manage careers, and we've kind of touched upon this in different ways, but it's really difficult to manage a career in the film industry with balancing a family life, and also, as you've said, that kind of uncertainty, particularly if you don't have some kind of a safety net, or you have that kind of financial precarity. Is that precarity? One of the two. What changes or accommodations do you think would have made it feel more accessible or sustainable for you as a mother and as a working class creative?
I think it's so hard because it is really so systemic. Um, I, honestly, it's such a hard one. I can't, because a lot of it, it's like part of it comes down to, yeah, money and finance, and not coming from money, essentially. So therefore, I couldn't. afford childminders or, like networking events in the evening and stuff like that, where lots of people meet people or just have their name, blah, 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 blah. Wasn't really able to go to any of those things because I couldn't afford childminder. Yes, similarly on sets and things like that, just like basic childcare wouldn't have been able to afford. And then similarly to like programs and film festivals and I don't know, like so I feel like so much of it is about money. And obviously no one's just going to come along and plop some money in my pocket. So, thinking about that, I was at the Galway Film Flower the other day and they're raising films were there with the childminding service. Like bloody brilliant, like so great
Films
to see
again.
that. Like that should be happening all the time, like why can't, or like London Film Festival or whatever, just having things like that or at networking events, making some of them in the day or at lunchtime. And, I think when I was a freelancer, I would have been able to get to more of those things that were happening in the day if I wasn't sort of working. Um, and then but I think a lot of it comes down to money, pay me, pay me to do my job, and then and pay me the same money that you pay the man. Because, I think it's, it's tough. Everyone's like, it's tough at the minute. It's tough in the industry right now. It's really tough. It's always tough, but there are always people that get to make stuff, and those people that get to make stuff always are the same people. And especially now when there's even less confidence, people are taking less risks. It's less likely that that I'm going to be somebody that's going to get their work made. And it has nothing to do with my talent, and it has a lot to do with my background and what I look like. So yeah, so systemically, so many things have to shift. So I'm really sorry that I haven't been able to answer that, but I just don't know because there's so many things that need to change.
It's okay. I wasn't hoping that you would fix this problem right
I
now on
know,
this
I
call,
feel
but you could have
responsible.
given me something else. But no, you delivered realness, which is very, very true. Um, uh, and I have this compulsive need to like somebody says a problem, I'm like, how about we do this? And
Mm,
I don't know what to say to that. Like it's
mm,
so true though. It's so true. And it's like you feel like every few years there's a sort of some steps in a direction. And then ultimately you're right, it always comes back to the same people making the work. Um,
yeah.
so well, sorry everyone.
Maybe some other people here know, like, what might have changed that for me. But whatever. I'm glad they didn't change. I love the path that I've taken and the journey that I've taken. And, maybe had it happened sooner, I wouldn't have been ready and I would have made something rubbish. But and you only get one chance when you're a woman. So I'm glad that I've had a bit more time to find my voice, basically. And, some of it has been by choice as well, and making those decisions so that I could be more present with my son and, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to ask you about the ways that being a mom has influenced your work, which you kind of spoke about in the earlier on about actually it was really becoming a mother that made you want to be
Mm.
a filmmaker. By the same token, I wonder about those kinds of struggles as well, like the things that in a way are the barriers. How much do they kind of galvanize you to keep going?
Yeah, massively. But also just like a really great source of, you know, inspiration and, workings out and questions that I have around like creativity and motherhood. I'm not the first one to talk about that. There's so many great books on that sort of juxtaposition, and it's absolutely changing. And and I know there's people out there who would be just like find it quite offensive that I've found it difficult or that I find that it's a challenge or that because they're able to just kind of get on with it and do it. But so yeah, so I would say that it's been a what was the question?
It was about oh no, now you're asking. It was about how much those kind of challenges have actually, as well as motherhood shaping the work that you've created, those
The
additional
challenges.
challenges you've faced. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because well, I guess I'm, like I'm, it's I'm I wouldn't necessarily say like challenges within the film industry, but I do think challenges as being like a working class creative or, coming from more working class background and communities and, these kinds of things have shaped my work. But I wouldn't say any of the other barriers have shaped my work. They're just barriers.
Real. Okay, yeah, fair. Um, I would love to move on to talking about milk in a second. But first,
Great.
I actually just want to ask you a very mum question. So my daughter's just finished her GCSEs. You have got your son through 2 rounds of exam season, GCSEs and A levels. Any parents in the room who have experienced or are about to experience next? So I know we're like just off the back of it, but I'm still traumatized by it. So I
Mm,
wondered if you had any tips because I found it really difficult with when I felt the thing that I needed to provide was just being really, really stable and having a very constant home life. That was the only thing I could really do apart from like sit her exams for her.
yeah.
And I'm just wondering how you've done that in the framework of a freelance career with its naturally shifting, um, you know, routines and things.
Well, actually, I've been in my stable job during this whole time. So I've been at Lambda, I have he knows when I'm coming home. Sometimes I'm able to work from home. And I totally agree. Like for me, Sonny's very focused. He's very self-motivated. And all I had to do was provide the snacks and some light relief and know when to go, like, let's watch Sister Act 2, or, like, you need a little change of rhythm, go and, like, and actually sometimes just getting him out of the room was the hardest thing. So, providing kind of a little light relief every now and again, and just making sure he's like has the right food and nourishment and is just there for little hugs or whatever. But yeah, it was very stressful to watch him go through that and feel quite helpless, in a way. I guess it's the beginning of that where you kind of are stepping out of the frame a little bit and allowing them to do their own thing. He had his first lads holiday recently. That was so stressful.
Oh, how
I
did
was
that go?
watching Find My Phone the whole time until he back to his apartment at like 3 a.m.
Oh no.
And I'm
Oh
actually
no.
quite a chill mum, and that was a new experience.
And he's all right. He's come back in
Oh,
one
he's
piece.
great.
No
He's so good.
tattoos. No.
No, no,
Okay.
that I know of.
He's a good lad. He's a good lad.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I don't know if everybody in the room was sent the link to Naomi's film or had a chance to watch it. We'll share the details at the end of the call as well, just in case you didn't get the link. But I would love to chat a little bit now about Milk. We are going
Great.
to come to an audience Q&A. I've just realised how much I've been gassing on with you.
No, I was like, I can't believe there's
But
people still here listening to
you're
me.
interesting, babe. Come on. Um, but if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat or be ready because very soon we will come to you and you will have your chance to ask whatever, not whatever you like, maybe, but within reason. So I love this film. I mean, I think it's a very difficult watch. And I was lucky enough to read some early drafts of it as well, so I've like seen the ways that it sort of changed along the way. But it's such a powerful film, and I just wondered if you would talk a little bit about why you wanted to make it, because it's absolutely imbued with so much heart as well. There's obviously a lot of you in there. So yeah, what was it that inspired you to make it?
I mean, I think firstly, I found out, I just saw that the baby formula was being kept behind the counters at my little local place, and then saw that it was being tagged, and I was kind of just like, wow, what is this? Why haven't I heard about this? What's going on? Started to do a bit of research around it and came across an article about a family who were really had debated and did still formula in order to make sure that their newborn was fed. And they had a heartbreaking conversation about who it should be, whether it should be the mum or the dad, because, if the dad got caught, the mum would still be around. It was so awful. I couldn't believe we weren't having this conversation. I couldn't believe people weren't talking about it. And, sort of I was able to breastfeed Sunny for quite some time because I was supported. I wouldn't have been able to afford formula if I hadn't have been able to breastfeed. But I know lots of people have challenged with it or just choose not to. And I think, again, so many stigmas around breast is best and how you should feed your child. And, a lot of it comes from other women, a lot of it is judgment, a lot of it is baked in the past, a lot of it is based on this kind of like UNICEF stuff that happened in the sort of the 80s when whenever Nestle went over to like different countries who weren't able to have access to like water. So then their babies weren't, they were dying or their milk was drying up and, a whole kind of awful thing that happened. But based on that, UNICEF created some guidelines that have really put the power in the hands of the formula companies and mean to this day that you can't go to a baby bank and be given formula. Couldn't believe that if you're on going to a food bank or using a baby bank, they can't provide you with formula. It's kind of illegal. Some of them do now, and also that if I gave you like a £10 voucher, you couldn't use that in Tesco's or Superdrug to buy formula. You can't use it for lottery tickets, and you can't use it for formula. And I just thought this is absolutely crazy. There's so many families living in poverty at the minute, like since COVID, and the cost of living crisis. And one of the things that was driving it as well was that it could happen to any of us. All of us could be put into this position. And part of that kind of desperation for sort of looking after your child did kind of come from my own struggles with nearly losing my home, while I was doing my MA, and like the desperation for that, and just being able to then empathize with that on a next level of not being able to feed your child or your family is was just really heartbreaking for me. And the story came very quickly. It was very clear, and it was really important to me to create a character that wasn't defined by their circumstance and that had a really strong imagination that had a really incredible interior life and was going to try to do whatever she could to change the circumstance. So yeah, and I think Tia, who is amazing, who's the lead actress in it, we had a lot of conversations around like growing up in council flats or in where places where our mum was on like the dole, and we had the Provident coming round, but we would always have nice clothes and we would always be able to get nice things. And I think there's this really like common misconception about growing up in poverty and what you should and shouldn't look like, and obviously there's a whole spectrum of that. But a lot of people that are using baby banks and food banks at the minute, are employed nurses who are working full time, or like daycare nurses and just not getting paid enough. So I just really wanted to challenge the kind of perception of what poverty looks like and the people that are going through these really awful, challenging times.
And you've done it really, really well. And especially that thing that you mentioned just then of the importance to you of creating characters that are not defined by sort of, I know we talk about this, we've spoken about this many times, a sort of shared hatred of kind of poverty porn and stories that kind of make their characters, reduce them to just being occupants of hardships. And I think that really comes across, particularly in the scene with the breast milk spraying.
Oh
I
yeah,
it's exquisite and surreal and gorgeous.
it's
Um,
surreal.
and yeah, and I think you've done it really, really well. And I mean, I know that you have got it in front, or you wanted to get it in front of some policymakers. I mean, you partnered with lots of incredible organisations.
Yes, partnered with Feed, who are incredible. They're just a few women who run a charity in Glasgow, supporting women to feed their babies however they want, wherever they want. They did an incredible campaign called the Formula for Change campaign with the Metro, which I also got on board with. And that film was shown to a couple of MPs and members of Parliament. Who it created there was a change around using vouchers in Sainsbury's and supermarkets or whatever. So that was changed. But ultimately, we really wanted the two cap benefit to change. That was like the main thing that we were sort of looking at. I don't think that the film went towards that, but it was definitely seen and shown and lots of people and but alongside the amazing work that all of these women were doing for an incredibly long time. So I was just kind of happy to share the film and use it as a resource however they wanted because it's just they're the ones doing the real work.
Hmm. Um, I have actually about a million more questions on milk, but I'm going to stop and give our wonderful audience a chance to ask you some questions. Um, Naomi, thank you
Sure.
for chatting with me.
Thanks. Love
So
a
let's
chat.
have a look. If anybody has a question that they'd like to ask Naomi, we've got about 10 minutes. I see there's one here in the chat from Anna. I don't know if Anna, if you're here, if you want to come off mic and ask it, or if you'd rather I read it out. If I hear nothing, I'll read it out. I'm gonna read it out. So Anna says, such a lovely and real talk and look forward to watching the film. Question to Naomi, do you think it's worth investing time in making more short films to get traction and recognizable awards or prestigious funding in short form, or if in my early 40s I've made a few decent self-funded festival shorts and have already written a couple of feature scripts that excite me and reflect my voice, then it's worth investing time and effort in finding a producer for the features?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I tell you what my experience um, is that off the back of Milk didn't actually go to many festivals, or like big A-list festivals. And, I spent a lot of time making films, short films, and basically I knew I needed to make one that either won an award or went to a really bloody brilliant film festival because unfortunately like part of the game at the minute is that but actually it didn't win an award and it didn't go to any great film festivals but it did get nominated for the Critics Circle Award and it did open a few doors for me so I don't know which then meant I was able to reach out to a few different producers and have something that they were like, oh, it exists in the world and other people like it. It's just the way that it is. But I think if you've written some great feature scripts, then absolutely you should be reaching out to producers. I think you should 100% be reaching out to producers. Um, I think, especially if you've been making feature films, I mean, sort of short films with producers, if there's any people from your community or like if you're from a particular area. So a lot of my work is actually based in Northern Ireland in Belfast, 'cause that's where I'm originally from. And so I've made a lot of contacts and connections with producers and production companies there because I know that's where ultimately my feature will be made. I think you should keep doing both. I think making short films is a real pain in the ass. It takes like 2 to 3 years of your life sometimes and can cost you an absolute fortune. So but saying that I went and made a little short film with my sister in a day using a handy cam the other day and like at the beginning of the year and so I think if you can it's really important to keep your creativity going and keep doing it for yourself and keep making things. But if you've already got these shorts, you should absolutely be reaching out to producers for that.
What's been your experience of film labs? Because that's where you're developing your sorry, and enjoy your cooking, no worries. Because so that's where you're currently developing your feature now, aren't you?
So, yeah, so the film lab that I went to, Less is More, in France last year was a really early development for my feature. I'd never written a feature before, and this was like a kind of like an unpeeling and getting to the bottom of like your heart's desire. So you apply with an idea, and then for me, it really changed, and it really came out with something that I was very excited to talk about. And that again came from having space and time away from being at home, time away from my work, and a really incredible, like robust, creative opportunity that happened over 9 months. And then I gave myself permission to take 2 weeks to go and write the feature film. And because I didn't want it to just be a good time, I really wanted it to be something that was great. And actually, it was through that program that I then reached out to producers because there was an opportunity at the end of it where they were hosting a big kind of sort of film market in a way, where you were pitching and talking to producers and execs from all across Europe in a very European way. It wasn't in the normal pitch way. And if I brought a producer along, they got to experience that all for free and come to France and get some free food and oysters and wine. And so I was a bit like, hey, I've got this opportunity. Do you want to meet? And then, so I had something to kind of offer them at the time. I was very much like, let's just see how it goes. Let's create a relationship. And so much of working with a producer is about the relationship because I'm sure we all know, all the filmmakers in here know that if you don't have the right producer or you don't get on with each other for some way, then it's an excruciating process. So it's really worth taking the time and building that relationship. So if you do have something to offer, even if that's a feature script and just say like, I'd love to get your eyes on this. I just said I'm quite bold as well. Like I reached out to Sienna Miller yesterday and just sent her my script. Like, I know it's really cheeky, you've just had a baby, but I think you're going to have a really excellent idea about who might be castable in this. Would love to pick your brains. Like, at the end of the day, you've got nothing to lose. And yeah, I do that all the time. And I'll always follow up and I'll follow up about 2, 3 weeks later. And then if I don't hear anything from then, I'll let it go.
That's good advice. Be
Yeah,
bold. And following up is the really hard thing,
it is,
actually.
but you know what? I just had a conversation. I was just at Stowe Labs in Galway, which was the reason that I was in Galway. And one of the really interesting things was with a producer from Wild Atlantic, who are a big production company. And I asked them this question, like, how often should you like write back or whatever? And he said, what you have to remember is that that's what he's doing all the time, or they're doing, producers are doing. Producers are constantly going, hi, do you remember that little chat we had? Just wondering, do you want to follow up? Da, 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 da. So that's what they're doing. And he said it's something that he, ha has to navigate as well. And so for him, he said that it would normally he would write an email. If they didn't hear back, he'd get back in about 3 to 4 weeks. And then if they didn't get back again, he would then write another email and just say, "Hey, I haven't heard from you. I'm going to take this as a, an understanding that maybe this isn't the right time for you. If you ever do have the time, please send me an email." So that's sort of closing the conversation down in a respectful way and acknowledging it, but also saying, if you've got time, come back to me. So I always follow up because I do believe that like people aren't being rude or don't think you're bad. They just don't have the time or you're not a priority at that moment, but there might be a moment where you are a priority.
It's a very good framework, actually. I think that's applicable to a lot of things. I like that. We have
Good.
a question from Carlos. How do you think cinema would change if motherhood was seen as a creative advantage rather than an obstacle?
I think cinema would change. Wow, that's an incredible question, Carlos. Well, you know, obviously it would probably mean that more women who, or parents or people that have chosen to have children might have more space to tell their stories, and more stories from different people from different backgrounds is always needed. Um, and I think that there's also something around the framework of the hours that it takes to make a film. I think there was the two female producers who made Bait, uh, did it around their childcare. Their days were really short. They did it, during the holidays, and they made it work, for them. And actually, that's going to benefit everybody on the crew. Like so many people in film, like don't have good relationships with their families or their partners because, or they're in this kind of insane, intense bubble and they haven't done their laundry or they're, for weeks and they've got no understanding of what it's like on the outside world. And, that was just changed. I actually think we'd be making better works overall. I think we really would. I think people would be more invested be able to give more of themselves if the hours were changed. So that's my answer to that.
No, it's true that when you cater for inclusion and accessibility, everybody wins. That curb cut effect. It's true.
It is
Um,
true.
I think we've probably got time for another one, maybe two, if anybody wants to get one in there. We've got a question from Vincent. Vincent, do you want to say it? Do you want to come on off mic, or shall I read it for you? Oh, the tension.
Yeah. Vincent and I
Okay.
actually met just recently at the Galway Film Flár.
Ah,
He's a Belfast filmmaker and an actor. And he, messaged me and said he was going to come and watch the film and take part. So I love that. Well, brilliant.
awesome. Great to see you,
Um,
Vincent. And yes, I'll happy to read it for you. So
Great.
while I was watching Milk, I noticed the shots were very close-up shots. Was there a specific reason for this?
Yes. So, yes. So I really wanted to be very close to the character's perspective and point of view. And when I'm sort of very, very early stages of kind of creating a shot list or the look or feel of the film, I really talk a lot about, how close I am to the character because I want to create a sense of intimacy. I really was interested in skin and texture and the intimacy of that mother and baby connection. And so I really wanted to, I think sometimes when you place the camera further away, you're not experiencing the things that this person is going through. And I think I really wanted to try to put as many people in the shoes as of this woman as possible, rather than like observing her from a distance and kind of not judging her, but asking more of a question. I wasn't asking a question. I was saying, this is what it feels like. And so that's why I chose to put the camera there. And yeah, for a lot of those kind of shots, especially in the domestic sort of setting.
I think you did that to really good effect. I feel like you can smell the baby, like it's so tactile. You really feel like you're there with her and them. It's
I remember saying to Vinny when I was like writing my notes, like I was like, it feels like peach skin that's soft on a summer's day, like to try to somehow sum up the kind of feeling that I wanted to create.
that's why
So
it's good to work with a DOP who knows what the hell you're talking about.
yeah,
Gets
exactly.
you.
Yeah. Oh, you know what?
So
I'm very lucky to have so many people who are incredible communicators and who were really able to bring the vision to life for me, because it's not a solo thing. The reason I love filmmaking more than, any of the arts is because it's so collaborative and you really have to learn how to be a great communicator and to listen. And, there are you bring people on board who are going to raise your level and take stuff to the next place. And I'm always very open to that. And I'm not somebody who's like, unless I know, and I'm like, no, 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 it's this. But I really always want great collaborators and people to challenge me. And so I'm very lucky that everybody who worked on Milk just brought 110% for no money. And so big up to the cast and crew. I really appreciate and love all the work that you did on that.
yeah, amazing work. Amazing work, amazing film, amazing you. I think that's probably quite a nice uplifting note to end it on, the power
Oh,
of collaborative art forms.
yes.
Um, thank you so much, Naomi, for being a
Thank
part
you.
of this talk. Thank you everybody for joining us today.
Yeah.
This is the first ever Ask Mother talk. We've got another one coming up in September, which will be now. I've got to tell you, I don't like Zoom. I'm not comfortable here, and I don't know what's going on. I'm sharing my screen, and I'm trusting that you can all see it. Um, yeah, can you see
Yeah,
that?
Anna
Okay,
Himali Howard and
thank
Sophia Griffin, new work and
you.
artist development team.
Thank you. Yes. So this is in September. Anna and Sophia are an amazing writer and director, respectively, but they also are the new work and artist development team at the Birmingham Hippodrome, which is a job that they job share because they're both parents of little young children. I don't know why I said it like that. And they're amazing. So we're going to have a chat with them in September, and I hope that you'll all be able to come. That will be on the Eventbrite page soon, but follow us. You can follow our Instagram page on at Ask Mother Productions, and then everything, all the updates will be there. Is there anything that I'm forgetting apart from a big thank you, Naomi? Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for just continuing to be inspiring and making great work. And you know,
Thank you for raising me up, you beautiful woman. All of the people that have joined today, like it's just it's like cool that people want to, hear about this and hear about that kind of juggle between motherhood and creativity. And I'm sure this is just a small reflection of lots of people's experiences in the room. So keep making the work, keep believing in yourselves, and find the right people. Like everybody's stories are needed to be told. We're all so bored of seeing the same people tell the same stories.
Absolutely.
Alrighty.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Naomi, and thank you, everybody.